Ah, now we're talking. Golden Axe, a true classic among the beat-em-up genre, an arcade brawler popularized by a home console, that one Sega game that gets included in every Genesis collection under the sun. Golden Axe is a game that needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Released in 1989 in both arcades and on Sega's brand new 16-bit powerhouse, Golden Axe is a weapons-based beat-em-up where you take on the role of one of three warriors who must travel the land to stop a villain called Death Adder, who has taken over the castle and is holding the king and princess hostage. Among these heroes are Axe Battler, a longsword-wielding barbarian, Gilius Thunderhead, a battle-axe-swinging dwarf, and Tyrus Flare, an Amazon warrior and master swordswoman. And in typical beat-em-up fashion, the game is played in a side-scrolling manner that allows you to move in 8 directions using the D-pad. You also have a jump button for jumping, an attack button for attacking, and a magic button for magicking. And boy oh boy, can you do some magicking in this game. Each character is able to use a different kind of magic unique to them, and each of these spells deals a variety of damage ranging from ow, that hurt, to in order to cast a blast, as the kids say, you'll first need to collect several magic potions from these little imp dudes who, when given a swift kick in the ass, will drop these magic vials, which in turn will fill up your segmented magic meter at the top of the screen. Once you have enough magic to fill these sections, you'll be able to cast the corresponding spell, which is animated in a wonderful 16-bit spectacle. Of the three characters, Tyrus clearly has the strongest and flashiest magic, with fiery specters, will-o-wisps, and even that big-ass dragon that comes out of nowhere and breathes fire over the entire screen. And this was definitely my favorite part of both Golden Axe 1 and 2 when I was a kid. So much so that I would oftentimes turn the game on with the sole purpose of witnessing these awesome spells and seeing just how much damage I could inflict upon my foes. I couldn't get enough of this shit when I was a kid, and I'm still pretty impressed by the sheer spectacle of it all to this very day. Another aspect of ye olde Golden Axe that I still enjoy immensely would of course be its wonderful music, delivered to your ears as only the Sega Genesis could. Classic. Though probably my favorite part of Golden Axe is just simply its world design. When I was a kid, this game just felt so epic to me, and its high fantasy world was something I had only ever experienced in the Conan the Barbarian comics my dad used to read to me. The first level is this awesome fantasy forest where it looks like bandits could jump wandering adventurers at any moment, and the second level is a village that rests on the back of a giant turtle. Then it's onto a coastal city before a level on the back of a giant eagle, and finally the castle where Death Adder resides, followed by the castle dungeon where the true evil can be found. On top of this is a wonderful little map scroll that tells the story between each level, tying everything together with a brilliantly animated quill which draws the events on the map right before your eyes. All of this was quite the spectacle back in the day, and it still is. I especially love both the eagle and the turtle, which you get to see in all their glory, sitting there like fantastic deities that help you on your journey while making the world seem an absolutely massive place where anything could happen. A lot of people cite Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons as the properties that caused them to fall in love with the fantasy genre, but for me, it was Golden Axe. It was the first time I had ever experienced a fantasy world and got to take on the role of a warrior on a mythical quest to save their realm. And this game holds a really special place in my heart, as it's one of the few games where I simply can't remember a time without it. It's just always sort of been in my life, like Sonic the Hedgehog and Toe Jam and Earl. I can't remember the first time I played it, but I do remember the day I got a copy of my own. I think I was about 5 years old, and my dad had just bought a Sega Genesis so we could have something to play together, and my uncle, who also owned the system, brought over a paper bag filled with some of his games for us to borrow. And among these games were Golden Axe and Golden Axe 2, and I loved both of them. Eventually, my uncle wanted his games back, but because I liked the Golden Axe games so much, and because he figured he only needed one of them, he gave me the first game, and this cartridge has been in my collection ever since. See, my mom even wrote my name on it and everything, just in case anyone forgot who it belonged to. Wasn't that nice of her? Thanks, Mom. Love you. So the eye and the ear candy portions of the game definitely hold up, but how about the hand candy? I mean the gameplay. Well, to begin with, I think it's important to recognize that Golden Axe tries to take a very less is more approach with its gameplay, and for the most part, it manages to derive a decent amount of depth from a very limited control scheme. There's only one attack button, but you can modify it by combining your attacks with movement and jumping, as well as your proximity to a foe, similar to how Streets of Rage would approach its combat a couple years later. For example, if you hit the jump and attack buttons at the exact same time, you'll perform a kick-ass maneuver which allows you to hit an enemy that's trying to flank you, dealing massive damage in the process. Or you could double tap a direction to dash and then attack to perform a ramming maneuver that always knocks enemies flat on their asses. And trust me, you're gonna want to get good at this move because it's probably the best attack in the entire game. In addition to practically stunning every foe you come into contact with, it also deals a small amount of damage, and most importantly, can be used to launch an enemy down one of the game's many pitfalls, killing them instantly. On top of that, this thing allows you to cheese most of the enemies in the game, like how I'm keeping two opponents at bay by alternating kicks between them, or how I've completely stun-locked this boss between my boot of justice and the edge of the screen. Well, at least you're able to do this with Tyrus and Gilius, but for some reason, Uber Muscles McPeckenstein here can only dash dash so close to the edge, making this maneuver downright fair and balanced, and who the heck wants that? Though if you find yourself in a spot with no pitfalls and it's a little tricky to keep juggling your foes across the screen, you can use the game's most damaging attack, which is a jump in the air followed by a downward thrust. You perform this most badass of badass maneuvers by double tapping a direction to sprint, jumping in the air, and then a split second later hitting the attack button. The timing can be a little bit tricky on this, but once you get used to it, you'll be able to whip it out in a pinch, no problem. There's just one problem. The fuckers always dodge it! To be fair, this attack does deal the most damage by far, so I guess it makes sense to give it an Achilles heel, but it's practically impossible to land a hit with this thing with any amount of regularity. Really, the only reliable method I've found to increase the odds of this attack actually hitting is by moving all the way to the bottom of the screen and then using it when your foes do the same. Because the AI usually tries to dodge its attack by moving downward, and because they are so close to the edge of the screen, they sort of get stuck in place, giving you an opportunity to land the hit. Though once in a while the AI will get smart and an enemy will dodge upwards, so it's still not 100% reliable, but even so, anything that can increase the odds of winning in this game is a welcome addition in my book, as its age and its arcade roots have led to it being downright unfair in certain spots, such as at the end of the Fiend's Path where you're ganked by a bunch of skeletons, or the final boss where the big bad villain dude launches magical attack after magical attack while being guarded by two nearly unkillable skeletons. Or really just any spot that has skeletons, because they're a fucking pain in the ass.
Who's there? A skeleton.
Aside from just casting magic and hitting things with a sharp object of your choice, you can also steal a couple of mounts from enemies that will allow you to attack with the whip of a tail or a blast of fiery hot breath. Though personally, I've never found these mounts to be all that useful, and I actually think they act as more of a burden than anything. They just sort of get in your way as you play, and they can't attack as fast as you can on foot, meaning that you're constantly getting knocked off and having your mount stolen, leading to many instances where it's just you and an enemy going back and forth with the mount like it was a fucking game of capture the flag or something. But still, these beasts act as a nice challenge and shake up the standard brawling whenever they show up, so I think they're a positive addition to the overall package. Overall, I'd say the gameplay has held up quite well over the game's almost 30 years. It might be a bit simplistic by today's standards, but it remains a lot of fun. Minor problems aside, Golden Axe is still a joy to play to this very day, and it's been re-released dozens of times on practically every platform under the sun, so you really have no excuse not to check it out. It can be beaten in about 45 minutes, so it's pretty short, but it's the perfect game to turn on when you can't think of anything else to play, or you've only got an hour or so to get your gaming fix. Check it out if you haven't.